Welcome to Signature Song, the podcast where every episode two friends get together to discuss a different artist and try to figure out that artist's signature song, the song that defines them to the world. I am Jorge.
And I'm Lane.
And Lane, before we get started, I'd like to point out that this is a little bit of a milestone. We are officially on our 10th episode.
Yay!
I can't believe it's 10 episodes. This feels like our 9th episode. No, I'm kidding. It's been so fun to do this, and I'm so glad that we've gotten the chance to do it, and the people listening along seem to be enjoying it, and hopefully we can continue to do it for a while and keep growing because, I don't know, I like to talk about music. That's the foundation of our whole friendship, I think.
Almost all of it, anyway. But
95%. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. There's other things. Well, this is exciting. Today we're going to talk about a band that started in the late 80s as three young men playing tiny little punk clubs in the East Bay, steadily making a name for themselves with energetic and melodic songs, a penchant for sharp hooks and sing-along choruses, and lyrics about suburban boredom and teenage alienation. Then, a few years later, in the mid-90s, they broke into the mainstream in a big way and helped bring punk music into a whole new level of commercial success and also spawning a whole generation of bands in the process. And then in the following decade, they went on to become a full-on stadium rock band, often show up in conversations about the greatest living American rock band, and are still one of the most successful and influential bands in American music. We're going to talk about Green Day. Lane, in all our years of discussing all sorts of music, I don't recall us ever having any significant conversations about Green Day prior to planning this episode. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Are you a fan at all?
I wouldn't go so far to call myself as a fan, but I really like the album Dookie, and I recognize their influence on popular music as well as punk music in the United States. But yeah, I haven't done a very deep dive of their discography until we started doing research for this episode.
Were you ever, like, aside from Dookie, which you seem to really like, forgetting that it's an album title, it kind of sounds like a funny sentence to say. Aside from being a big fan of Dookie, did you ever go through like a Green Day phase where you checked out all their albums or listened to stuff beyond the hits, the songs that make it into the mainstream?
Well, so I think my first exposure to Green Day was when I was much younger, and Good Riddance was on the radio, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. In, I think, 8th grade, I had some friends who were into pop punk and punk rock, and I generally preferred hardcore music. I was already listening to, Minor Threat, Husker Du, Bad Brains, that kind of stuff, Black Flag. But I was curious about Green Day because Dookie was apparently a very influential album. I've mentioned this list dozens of times, it feels like, even though we've only been here for 10 episodes. But the Rolling Stone magazine's original top 500 albums of all time included Dookie. And so I asked a classmate who knew how to burn CDs if he would download and burn Dookie for me. And the real reason behind it is because I had heard of Coming Clean, and I deeply wanted to listen to it because 8th grade was when I figured out I was gay. And so I was trying to surreptitiously tune in to queer artistry by asking my friend to burn me the Dookie CD.
Interesting. Wow. And I mean, I guess there's something pretty significant about that, right? About an album as popular as Dookie in a genre that's so, where sort of these frat boy mentalities can be so prevalent, especially in the mid-90s, to have a song where the singer straight up tells the world that, that he's bisexual. I never really thought of it too deeply, but I guess that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
I actually also went in, Dookie was also the way that I found them. I was getting into punk music, or, pop punk more accurately. And my cousin Carolina owned this album, and I had heard of it, but I'd never actually heard it, and I stole it from her. And what's more punk than taking your cousin's CD? And I became a big fan. I actually did go through a Green Day fandom. I'm not going to call it a stage, but they definitely sort of fell away from my grasp as years went by. But I was big into Dookie. I then went back and listened to 39 Smooth and Kerplunk. I was big into Insomniac. Insomniac for a while was my favorite Green Day album. It still is among my favorites. Nimrod, Warning, and I'm 17 years old when American Idiot comes out, and it's sort of the perfect album for a 17-year-old, even though I was already kind of moving away from the pop punk thing. And then I sort of lost track of them after that. I've heard some songs here and there. I think they might have evolved into, I don't know, a style that to me doesn't play to their strengths. And maybe I'm just, revealing my own bias here, but I'm a fan of poppy, energetic Green Day. I'm a fan of the style of Green Day where it's the Buzzcocks, where it's the Descendants, the Ramones, Operation Ivy, Stiff Little Fingers. Those kinds of sharp, hooky, melodic, bratty type of songs. My favorite Green Day song is not in the list that we're going to discuss today, but it's, a song that embodies the style I'm talking about, which is Going to Pasalacqua. And then when they went into this rock opera, more ambitious style, I don't know, it didn't seem like what I was looking for or what I turned to them for, However, I'm amazed at the career they've had, right? Like, they are legitimately one of the most successful rock bands of all time, and we could maybe even call them the most successful punk band of all time if we're still considering them a punk band. Do you consider Green Day a punk band? Not to get into that whole debate, but where do you stand on that?
I think they're more like arena rock now.
Yeah, definitely. And we could maybe make the parallel of other bands that went that trajectory from punk to arena rock, and like, I don't know, the Police could be considered one of them. The Goo Goo Dolls. Okay. I was thinking more like the Clash, the Police. But yeah, the Goo Goo Dolls, I guess, would also be a fit. But anyway, it's been fun listening to Green Day for the last few days and paying attention to them again. And I'm excited to talk about them with you now.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Sometimes I give myself the creeps. Sometimes my mind plays tricks on me. It all keeps adding up. I think I'm cracking up.
Our first contender today is a song from Dookie. It is Basket Case. And Basket Case is the second single from Dookie after Longview. It was co-produced by Green Day and Rob Cavallo, who, speaking of the Goo Goo Dolls, has worked with them, as well as My Chemical Romance, Alanis Morissette, and Fleetwood Mac. Cavallo heard Basket Case on Green Day's demo tape and helped get them signed to Reprise Records, and worked with them on producing Dookie, which helped channel their raw pop punk sound into something a little bit more polished, but still had a little bit of edge. The song's lyrics were written by Billy Joe Armstrong, and he wrote them about his own experiences with having anxiety and a panic disorder. And this kind of raw vulnerability hallmarked a lot of Green Day songs throughout their career. Although it originally was going to be a love song, but eventually I guess the anxiety just kept seeping through.
Won out, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever listened to the original demo and the original lyrics?
No.
Swank is her name. She's got the best of him, and he's just got the best of her in the palm of their hands.
The bones of the song are there. You can hear them very clearly, and I think it still would have been a hit, but I'm definitely glad they went with the wackier lyrics instead of the original love song style. It's kind of interesting to look back on the original versions of some of these tracks. This is such a huge song.
It made it to number 1 on the US Billboard Alternative Songs for 5 consecutive weeks. It also made it to the top 10 in both Norway and the UK, and also Sweden, and top 20 in Germany and Ireland. It was also on the regular US radio songs and mainstream rock. It recharted this year, actually, in Japan. I don't know if maybe there's like some kind of TikTok meme associated with it.
Maybe. I don't know. I think of this song, and you tell me if you disagree with this, but I think this is like the platonic ideal of a pop punk song. Like, it's everything about it is, I just mentally associated it with the genre. It's so melodic. It's so catchy. It's got that Pachelbel canon chord progression. In fact, I would even say this is the song that played the biggest part in popularizing Pachelbel's canon as a pop punk staple. And it's sort of irreverent. You know, it's got that thing in the lyrics where it flips back and forth between whom he's talking about, which it took me a while to understand what he was doing there. You know, I went to a shrink to analyze my dreams, and then he's talking about what the shrink said, but then he switches back and forth between that and what the prostitute said that he also went to, also creating a sort of gender confusion there. Like, I couldn't quite understand what he was doing until listening to it for a while. But I don't know. I just think this song is great. It's really fun. It's energetic. It's propulsive. It's got the band firing on all cylinders. And I love that the production, even though it is definitely a slicker version of their earlier sound, it doesn't completely lose that edge. The guitars are still nice and chunky, and there's a little bit of grit to it. It's like the bridge between the scrappy Gilman Street scene and what will become mainstream pop punk.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, for me too, an example or quintessential example of pop punk music. I think it's probably the first song that I would maybe go to, other than maybe Blink-182's "What's My Age Again."
Oh yeah, that's another one.
You know,
we should do a Blink episode at some point.
That would be fun. Yeah,
that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, this song is really big. I mean, you can still hear it on alternative radio, and you know, historically, right? Like, it's been ranked among the best punk rock songs of all time, or songs in general of all time in Rolling Stone. Everybody is, like you said, operating on all cylinders, right? Like, everything feels tense and quick and tight. I think that it's a fantastic song.
To your point about everything feeling quick and tight, the drumming on this song really shows off Trey Cool as a great drummer. The things he does on this song really opened my eyes as a young listener to how drums could also be, you know, more than just a rhythm instrument. I mean, they're still a rhythm instrument, but they can contribute to the, how to say this, not to the melody of the song, but they contribute in musical ways to the music, to the song itself. Not just on Basket Case, although that initial jump in when the drums, you know, kick off is legendary. But just throughout Dookie, Trey Cool is really killing it throughout, and I think he's a big part of why this song and Dookie is so successful. I think we can move on to our next contender. When I Come Around was the 4th single from Dookie, so we're still in Dookie land. And it represents another side of early Green Day. This is, some might consider it a power ballad. No, it's not a power ballad, but it's definitely ballad adjacent. And this song was actually written before Dookie was recorded. This is like one of their earliest songs in their catalog. And when they finally put it to tape and the song finally got its moment, it blew up. It topped the Billboard Modern Rock charts for 7 weeks. It hit number 6 on the Hot 100 Airplay chart, and it became a top 10 single around the world, from Canada to New Zealand. Billboard magazine recently ranked it as the 19th most successful song in the history of the modern rock chart. So that says a lot. Critics at the time called the song a slacker punk answer to the power ballad. So I think that's where I got the power ballad in my brain. It does have a slower groove compared to Basket Case. It's definitely a different type of song. It's not trying to rock your socks off. But I think there's something really endearing about this song. I feel that its simplicity, it's even simpler than Basket Case. It's just 4 chords the whole way through. But its simplicity makes a really great canvas for some really effective songwriting here from Billy Joe Armstrong. He's sharing some feelings that are pretty complex, but he's verbalizing them with, some deftness that maybe you wouldn't expect from a band like Green Day. And you can really see the influence he was very influenced by early Elvis Costello, and you can really hear it in this track. Would you agree with me, Lane, that When I Come Around is a better song than Basket Case?
I don't know if I would call it better or not, because I have a very strong fond association with Basket Case. But I think When I Come Around is probably a more sophisticated song. I think that Billy Joe Armstrong is a pretty solid songwriter in general. I mean, we're going to be going over a lot of Green Day's classics in this episode, and there are many others that we could have pulled from their archives to say, this represents them and represents, their songcraft. I think When I Come Around is maybe a more enduring song in some ways than Basket Case, even though I did say that Basket Case is still being played on the radio here. I mean, so is When I Come Around. But I think that, When I Come Around also has a little bit more of a crossover appeal, right?
I think that's true, yeah. I think I think you're totally right. I think it does have more crossover appeal, even though, again, Basket Case is a legit pop hit. When I Come Around, I don't know, there's something about it that just seems to me very classic songwriting. Like you could put the song alongside, ballads by Tom Petty and Bruce Springsteen and, other songwriters that are celebrated. I think there's something about it that just feels very true. And it is, like I said, it's very simple. It's a very simple song. Those 4 chords. And again, this progression, this chord progression in When I Come Around is popularly known as the pop punk chord progression. But it's played, the whole song is sort of based around this, palm muted, highly distorted, groove that Billy Joe does on the guitar. And I just really like the shape of it. I think there's a lot of musicality in how he's playing it. And one more thing I want to point out about When I Come Around that to me elevates it is the bass playing. The bass line on this song is so cool. Like Mike Dirnt isn't just sticking to the root notes. He's dancing around and he's adding little flourishes and he's adding little licks that give the song a bounce. You already had a bounce with Trey Cool on the drums. It's already kind of bouncy, but those licks, those bass lines really add to it and, give a different character to the song. I think that's one of those little hard to immediately notice, but undeniable earwormy touches that are present in truly great rock songs. And When I Come Around has them in spades.
Yeah, it's definitely more sophisticated than your average pop punk song.
It's also got a guitar solo, like a very simple one. It's not Van Halen or anything, but it's very pop structure. It works structurally as a pop song, and it's constructed that way, and I really appreciate that about it.
Cool deal.
So take the photographs and still frames in your mind, hanging on a shelf in good health and good time. Tattoos and memories and deaths.
Our third contender is from now, instead of Dookie, we are moving to Nimrod. It's Good Riddance, parenthetically titled Time of Your Life, which I think many people would probably know it by that title instead, given the refrain of the song. Rob Cavallo is back as a co-producer with Green Day, and Billy Joe wrote the lyrics in this one as well, about a partner who had moved all the way to Ecuador, and he expressed a little bit more kind of complex and nuanced feelings, more reflective feelings in this song. It was written back in 1993, but so during the Dookie era, actually, but wasn't released until quite a bit later. This song was really successful. It made spots on the top 10 and top 20 in the US, in Australia, Canada, Iceland, and the UK. It's widely associated with graduation and kind of this reflecting, nostalgic, looking back in people's lives. It's kind of an important song to alternative and adult contemporary radio, which is not something that you would necessarily get from a punk band. But this song was huge, and it was a big surprise for a lot of people, but it did really, really well.
Yeah. And it sort of grew with time. I may be wrong, but the impression that I have is that it wasn't necessarily a mega hit when it came out. I mean, we've talked about that it did well, but I think it just kind of became, it established itself as a standard of, as you said, graduation and other, marking of important moments, looking back fondly on the time that we spent together, etc. With time. I think as years went by, it became more and more associated with that, and the song, just became a more famous song with time. I think if you're a millennial, this was definitely played at your graduation, either at the party or at the ceremony. I don't know if that was the case for you, but it was for me.
So it wasn't played at my graduation, but I do associate it with, wrapping up of high school, in that the first school that I went to when I was younger did kindergarten through 12th grade. And so our yearbooks had all the different grades represented in them, as opposed to being divided up by, elementary, middle, and high school. And I remember very clearly in, 1997, 1998, looking at people's yearbook quotes, and so many people quoted this song. Yeah. So not only was the song everywhere and I was hearing it on the radio, but I was also seeing it, as this message of finality and like this profound end of an era for, these high schoolers. So that was really like my first conscious exposure to Green Day, was through this song.
Interesting. And 2/3 of the band aren't even in it. It's just Billy Joe playing the guitar. Another big thing that this song was a part of was, I think it was the second to last episode, or one of the very last episodes of Seinfeld. They played, as the show was coming to a close, they played a montage of scenes from throughout the show's history with this song playing. And I think that also, I mean, it sounds like a silly thing to talk about, but we went at length about the use of Yellow Ledbetter on the Friends finale. I think the Seinfeld finale, or one of the last episodes of Seinfeld, is at least comparable in terms of its cultural significance. So this song has made a lasting impression on the culture. I think whatever you make of the song itself, whatever your opinions are, and we're about to give them, I think it's a better song than the Vitamin C graduation song that came after. Do you remember that one?
Yes.
Oh my God. Talk about Paco Bill's Cannon. I mean, that was basically just Paco Bill's Cannon set to a pop, 2000s pop beat in the background.
I keep hearing Taco Bell's Cannon.
Oh yeah. That's a different song. Green Day's Time of Your Life, or Good Riddance, which, by the way, I don't like that it's called Good Riddance because of several things, but one of the bigger ones is that it made, as a teenage punk fan, it made it really hard to find Good Riddance songs on early file sharing platforms. The band Good Riddance, which I really liked, but Green Day just completely took all the SEO value of their name.
I can just see you on Napster, like, getting frustrated.
No, this isn't it. This isn't it. This isn't it either. It's a nice song. I like it. It's sweet. It's sincere. I've seen conversations on the Green Day subreddit, shout out to the Green Day subreddit, about the sentiment of the song. And some people say that it's called Good Riddance, which clearly implies there's a certain sense of, like, a certain fuck you element to the song, right? Like, bye, don't let the door hit you on your way out. But I don't know, to me, just taking it as face value, it just sounds like a sincere song about looking back on a relationship, an experience, like a school graduation or whatever, a school grade, and taking stock of everything that happened, the good, the bad, and just, wishing well for whatever comes in the future. Like, to me, it doesn't feel like it's masking anything too negative, or it's, hiding some sort of ill intent. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, I don't think there's any malice in it. I think it's very sincere. I also really like the strings in the song.
So pretty. They're very pretty.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely like a different vibe than we had gotten from Green Day up until this point.
I don't know if it's like, I think it's just a string quartet, but it sounds so nice and full. And I think the choice to use it is really cool. I really like that they decided to go all out. Nimrod is an album where the band is just going all out on almost every track. There's a hardcore track where they don't try to make it sound nice and pleasant. There's this crazy, almost like polka track where Billy Joe sings about how much he likes to dress up and drag. I don't know. The Nimrod just feels like a very big, ambitious album, but it's a very different type of ambitious than we would get in like American Idiot or 21st Century, etc. Time of Your Life is nice. If you listen to the original version, the one that was released as a B-side in the mid-90s, it's very similar. There's not a lot of difference. It's just the strumming pattern is different, and I think it's in a different key, and it doesn't have the strings.
Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Sun grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go.
But people saying, "Oh, this is the demo version is the Good Riddance version, and the Nimrod version is the Time of Your Life version," as if to say that there's different emotional readings that you can get from each one. I don't know. To me, that seems to be. I don't see that. I don't quite see that. Having said that, let's move on now into the 21st century with our next contender.
Don't wanna be an American idiot. Don't want a nation.
Our next contender is the song American Idiot, the title track to Green Day's 2004 massive album, even more massive than Dookie. But before we can talk about the track itself, I think it's fair that we go back a little bit and set the scene. By the early 2000s, Green Day's momentum as a commercial powerhouse had sort of cooled. Warning had come out in the year 2000 following Nimrod, and it did underperform commercially. It's a good album with some really interesting touches. There's a lot of cool experimentation in Warning, and it's got more of an acoustic sort of sound than their usual stuff. But I think what releasing an album like that in 2000 did is it made them look old. Pop punk was being overtaken by younger bands like Blink-182 and Sum 41 that were even brattier and funnier and sillier than Green Day. And the band's planned follow-up album had their master tapes stolen. They had to start over from scratch. So the band splintered into side projects, and they didn't know what their next move was going to be until they regrouped with a bigger vision back with Rob Cavallo, and they recorded American Idiot, this rock opera, this huge concept album with sprawling songs that go over 8 minutes long, some of them. And it has a story to it. And like most rock operas, the story is just kind of nonsense. It like barely holds together. It's like only a story in the vaguest sense of the word. You're never going to make sense of it unless you like are reading the Wikipedia article about what the story is at the same time as you're reading the lyrics. Just on its own, it's sort of like Tommy by The Who, right? Like it doesn't actually make sense just from the songs themselves. But it was a fiery comeback for the band. It became, and the first single of it was the title track, which serves as sort of an introduction to the world of American Idiot. And it became their first top 5 hit in the UK, their only number 1 hit in Canada, and became number 1 on US alternative radio. It earned 4 Grammy nominations, including Record of the Year. Critics hailed it. They called it this generation's God Save the Queen, and the music video was a big hit. More than just a hit single, American Idiot seemed to redefine Green Day and launched a whole new part of their career. Do you think American Idiot, the song, accomplishes what it sets out to do?
Well, I'm going to have to start my answer to that question, I think, with a retrospective story. So I remember when this album came out, it was at the very beginning of my 10th grade year in high school. And I was right in the throes of my budding progressive political identity. And I remember being, curious about the album and the songs, in particular, or the song, I remember being curious about the album and the title track in particular when it came out. So I had that same friend who burned me a copy of Dookie, made me a copy of American Idiot. And I, at the time, wasn't really listening to a lot of pop punk music. I think at this point in my life, I was really heavy into The Cure, among other artists, you know, Bruce Springsteen, right? People we've talked about on this show before who have done really masterful jobs of writing concept albums, right? And in the case of Bruce Springsteen, those with the political bent. I liked the album fine, I think. I mean, it never really made a strong impact on me one way or another. But going back and revisiting American Idiot, both as an album and as a song now, as an adult, I think, you know, it's got this like snotty, brash attitude, right? That's very punk. But I think that the song is kind of, it falls kind of flat for me. I find the content of the lyrics, to be maybe a little bit trite. Even though I know Billy Joe is queer, I don't like him using the F slur in the song for some reason. I think that it's a very lukewarm type of rebellion. It seems, maybe I'm cynical, but it seems as much of an outcry as a cash grab.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying 100%. To me, the problem with it, and again, I'm just talking about the sentiments and the song's lyrics. We're going to talk about the music in a little bit. I think it's just very unspecific. It's political in the vaguest sense. And I don't know that it's trying to be political, really. Like, it's easy to make the association. This is a Bush era track. It can sort of be seen as a protest song, but it's also serving as it's an overture to a larger story that is trying to set the stage of disillusionment and, like I said earlier, alienation that will inevitably move our main character, Jesus of Suburbia, to action. And again, just want to reiterate, the story of this album is just absolute nonsense. But as a song itself, yeah, it just seems very unspecific. It does seem trite. It broadly gestures in the direction of like left-wing radicalism, but not really. Like, there's nothing that Billy Joe would say here that would get him in hot water. Although I do remember one time, the singer from The Killers, Brendan Flowers, took issue with the song American Idiot because, he didn't like seeing European teenagers singing about being an American idiot. That said, I like the music. I think it's a powerful song. I think it sounds great. It's beefy, beefy guitars and bass. I think the sound of the American Idiot album altogether is really cool. I like that it sounds like it's got some grit to it. But it's muscular. It doesn't sound as polished as Warning sort of did, or the way that some of their contemporaries with, talking about Blink-182, like, Enema of the State sounds very bright and sparkly compared to the grittiness that you can hear in the album American Idiot. And the song has a lot going for it too. I really like the drums on the song sound great. But it just seems very, I don't know. It does seem a little flat overall.
I walk this empty street on the boulevard of broken dreams, where the city sleeps and I'm the only one. And I walk up my shadows.
Our next contender is also from American Idiot and from the perspective of Jesus of Suburbia, the protagonist of American Idiot. It is Boulevard of Broken Dreams. We're noticing the theme here now with Rob Cavallo working with Green Day to produce the song, and Billy Joe writing the lyrics, whereas the band worked together on the music. Billy Joe said that he was trying to take power from feeling alone, and he named the song after a painting, actually, also called Boulevard of Broken Dreams, which features celebrities James Dean, Marilyn Monroe, Elvis Presley, and Humphrey Bogart in a diner together.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, totally wild. This song also sounds a little bit like Oasis's Wonderwall.
Yeah, I think it's the same chords.
Yeah,
I think Noel Gallagher took issue with it, which is really funny that Noel Gallagher would take issue at anybody borrowing a musical idea.
Yeah, because he's so original all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I walk this empty street on the boulevard of broken dreams. Today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you.
But yeah, this is a power ballad, and it's got punk, emo, hard rock influences throughout. It was the second single to the album American Idiot, and offers a change in narrative structure this was very successful. It made it to number 2 on the US Billboard Hot 100, which is their highest charting song ever. And it spent 5 weeks at number 2, just behind 50 Cent's classic Candy Shop.
Oh, yeah.
And it also made it to number 1 on mainstream and modern rock, as well as adult and mainstream top 40. It was the first song to ever top all 4 of those in the United States at the same time. Internationally, it made it in the top 5 in numerous countries, including UK, Ireland, Bolivia, and New Zealand. And it received Record of the Year at the 2006 Grammys. So, Jorge, what do you think of Boulevard of Broken Dreams?
Boulevard of Broken Dreams is, to me, an example of everything that Green Day is not good at and should not be doing. I say this with the full knowledge that this is their biggest chart hit ever, and that people love this song, and that it's one of the biggest sing-alongs, and that it was inescapable for a while, and that everybody in the world disagrees with me. But I find this song so repetitive, so one note, so boring. It just drags on, and it's so long, and it just falls so far away from what the band is good at. It just feels like a miserable trudge of a song. Just goes on with the same chords over and over again, and just a melody that is devoid of any fun or any compelling element. I mean, I know that they're not trying to be fun with this song. It is very dour, but I just can't stand it. I hate that. First off, this is one of those songs that starts off with the fade out of the previous track, which is already like a pet peeve of mine. When artists do this in albums that are, so closely interconnected. But the first chord of this song is the final chord from Holiday, which is a much better song. And then it just doesn't get any better from there. The chorus just seems so cliche to me. I feel like anybody could have written this with their eyes closed. There's a little bit of that woe is me thing that I really can't stand. And it expresses all of these emotions of loneliness and sullenness in just the most obvious, straightforward, inelegant way. There's just no sophistication, no deftness, no quirk to it. There's nothing that they did but say the thing in the plainest way possible. And that is not a good thing in this case. I just think it's a big waste. I can't stand it. I feel like I'm being too mean about it, but what do you think about this one?
I don't like it either.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I'm glad.
I kind of agree with you. It's very one-dimensional. It plods along. I don't think there's anything about it that makes it so remarkable that it would have gotten the Grammy for Record of the Year in 2006, although I can't really remember what the music scene was like then, so it might have been very dire.
Do you not remember Cobra Starship? The creators of the song Snakes on a Plane, Bring It? Was
that nominated for a Grammy?
I don't know. I actually don't know. Maybe. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I don't really care for this song. I was listening to it, in the days leading up to this episode, and I was just like, wow, this is such a drag. And it's, it feels almost self-pityingly like aligned with like, the emo sound.
Yeah, I think this song's success is a big part of why Green Day sometimes gets lumped in with the emo genre, which overall, I don't really see it. I don't really see them as part of it, but they were doing the whole black shirts with red neckties and smeared mascara look during this era, and they were singing songs about how alone they feel. So I see why people would put them in that group. In any case, I'm glad that you agree with me. I do feel like, we walk alone, as the song says over and over again on this one, because people love it. And if you're a listener and you're cringing at what we're saying here, tell us. I would love to know why people like this song so much. I mean, there is one part that kind of gets my blood pumping a little bit towards the end. The song sort of shifts into this like heavy, almost like Black Sabbath inspired jam. Bum, 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 bum. And I like that. That part is kind of cool, but it takes forever to get to that part. And then that part just lasts like a few bars. Another thing I'll mention is that the oh in the post chorus reminds me of another punky, grungy, somewhat emo adjacent song that came out earlier that same year. And I'm talking about My Happy Ending by Avril Lavigne, which it's sort of the same. They do the same, you know.
Yeah, they do.
So much for my happy ending. So much for my happy.
I wonder if there's any, there was like somebody took notes from the other one's demo. Like, I want to try that. Okay. Boulevard of Broken Dreams is not our favorite, but maybe our final contender will be. I don't know. Let's see.
Summer has come and passed. The innocent can never last.
Our final contender for Green Day's signature song is also from American Idiot. So our picks were dominated by Dookie and American Idiot. Nimrod was the exception. And that is Wake Me Up When September Ends, the fourth single from American Idiot. It was written by Billy Joe about his father's death in September of 1982. And I think, in the story of American Idiot, this song the plot seems to take a backseat here. It seems like they paused the plot of the album story to sing this song about Billy Joe's father's passing. And it was another big hit. Again, the fourth single from the album. It hit the number 6 on the US Hot 100, became a big hit all throughout Europe, 4 times platinum in Canada, 2 times platinum in the UK, and also was accompanied by a very famous music video directed by Samuel Bayer, where a couple played by Jamie Bell and Evan Rachel Wood seemed to suffer from being separated during the Iraq War. So there's a slight, anti-war undertone to the music video, at least. I don't know if it's present in the song itself. I don't quite hear it, but it was another big hit for Green Day, maybe like the last big hit for American Idiot. It's not tied to the rest of the album in terms of the story, but thematically it does sort of sit alongside the latter half of the album's themes of loss and reckoning, before, the protagonist, Jesus of Suburbia, returns home in Homecoming, which is like the big finale of the album. Wake Me Up When September Ends, another softer song, a ballad. I would say this one is not as successful as When I Come Around in terms of its songwriting. I don't know how you feel about it. Do you think this is a good song? Do you find this song compelling?
No, I think it's a slog. I think it kind of drags on and on. I think that it's really repetitive. I don't feel as in touch with the emotions of, catharsis that seem to be coming through for Billy Joe. They don't resonate with me, and, I haven't lost a parent. I'm not, writing about that kind of childhood trauma, right? So maybe it just doesn't resonate with me for that reason, but I've never really liked this song.
Yeah. I feel that many of the things I said about Boulevard of Broken Dreams also apply to Wake Me Up When September Ends. I think Wake Me Up When September Ends could have been a very pretty little 2.5 minute interlude. If they just kept that opening verse and then maybe ran through the chorus a couple times without the whole band jumping in, it could have been like a nice little moment of calm before jumping into the bigness of Homecoming. I think it could have been a really pretty little thing. Instead, it's ponderous, it's sluggish, it seems to cycle over and over again. Like there's some musical stuff going on here that I'm like, I don't see the point of. Why are you playing that part again? Why are you like in the big jam section again? Let's just like wrap it up. You don't need to do another jam. I feel like I'm trying to box Green Day in and just keep them to 3-minute punk songs. That's not really the case. I like it when they try different things. I like Misery from Warning. I love it. I like even the 8-minute songs from this album. I like that they do that. They're good. They're good songs. I don't like the whole stretched out, sluggish, this is so serious, this is so bad, this is so morose kind of thing that they do on these 2 tracks. Boulevard of Broken Dreams and Wake Me Up When September Ends. But we find ourselves in the same situation, right? Like the world loves this song. This is a very popular Green Day song. It was very successful and it became a meme, right? Like every late September, back in the Facebook days, every late September, people would be like, hey, somebody wake up the guy from Green Day, because September is about to end. And that meme has sort of kept the spirit of the song alive or kept the song alive in people's memory and cultural consciousness, I think. And it's funny how memes work like that. But yeah, I don't know. This feels like a swing and a miss for me.
Another thing I don't really care for in this song is that I think the lyrics are really poorly written. Like, I feel like, a high schooler could write maybe similar lyrics, and maybe he wrote this song a long time before the album came out, right? But to me, lyrically, the rhymes are so obvious, and I mean, you get like repetition of past, pass, and past, right? Like all these like different, like it's such an obvious kind of linguistic device, right? And I think that the rhyme schemes are very basic, and there's really only 2 or 3 different sets of rhyming words in the song, and makes it really a chore to listen to.
So we've talked about 6 contenders for Green Day's signature song. Before we reveal our picks, let's talk about some honorable mentions. Some tracks we considered, but didn't make the cut for contender. Do you have any you'd like to share?
Yeah, I have a couple. So I think one of the main ones is Longview. Their first big single. I think that it may not be as like remembered by title, I think, by people who would say that they knew a Green Day song or something like that, but they've certainly heard it on the radio.
Yeah. Longview was big.
Yeah. And also Jesus of Suburbia, also from American Idiot, I think, was kind of a centerpiece of that album. And I think a lot of folks point to that song as, the pinnacle of Billy Joe's writing.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 I'm thinking of.
Also sort of a showcase for everything the band could do musically.
Mm-hmm. I
have a couple more. I wanted to suggest Brain Stew from Insomniac. It was a single. It was moderately successful. I don't think anybody really thinks of it as Green Day's signature song, but to be entirely honest, the main reason I wanted to bring it up today was to talk about the Godzilla version. I don't know if you're aware, but the song Brain Stew was featured in the soundtrack album to the late 90s Godzilla film. And the great thing about it is that it's a remix, but the only real different thing that you hear in this remix version, if you look at the song's credits, it says featuring Godzilla, because the big difference is that you can hear Godzilla going, Rah! Like roaring. in between.
Good impression.
Godzilla is just like roaring in between the verses during the little instrumental breaks. And I just picture like Godzilla in the recording booth, like with the one headphone off of his ear, just like waiting for the moment to go. I think that's just wonderful. Another one that I almost nominated was Hitching a Ride, another great single from Nimrod. I think it was the first single from Nimrod, but it didn't quite make it to that level of public consciousness, I don't think. And then a late career hit, 21 Guns, which is another big song, another big ballady type song that Green Day wrote, and it is a little bit of it sort of plagiarizes All the Young Dudes by Mott the Hoople. But we don't have to get into that now. We have talked about our contenders, our honorable mentions, and now we must reveal our pick for Green Day's signature song. Do I go first or do you go first?
I don't remember.
Okay. Let's, you do it first.
I'll go first. Okay. My pick for Green Day's signature song is Basket Case, because I think that Basket Case is sort of a blueprint for a lot of 90s and early aughts pop punk music. I think it's a very influential song. I think it's part of a very influential album. It had significant commercial success, even though this was relatively early in Green Day's career. I mean, they were really young dudes when they wrote this song, and they knocked it out of the park. I think their earliest hooks are some of their snappiest, tightest material. I think that we wouldn't have the stuff in the latter career, like, you know, from American Idiot, for example, without something like Basket Case paving the way for it. So that's why it's my pick. What about you?
Lane, that's a great pick. I really like that pick, and it was almost my pick, but it is not my pick. Because although I agree with every single word you said, I do believe that time has shifted the perception of Green Day. That if you talk about Green Day in a journalistic piece, in an article on some website, they are much more likely to refer to this song, which is American Idiot. Because the American Idiot era has become the version of Green Day that people remember. And the song American Idiot, in all its simplicity and in all its non-specific rebellion, just seems to be Green Day's defining song for the 21st century. And they've been around longer in the 21st century than they were in the 20th century as a band. So it just barely wins out, in my opinion. That said, that's just our opinion. People have different opinions. Other people might consider a different song their signature song. You, listener, what do you think? Do you think it's either of these, or do you think it's one of the four others that we discussed? Or do you think it's a different song? I can't imagine which other one it might be, but it's possible. Let us know in the comments, please. If you want to check us out, go to Signature Song Pod on Instagram. We will become more active on Instagram at some point. And I think it's better if we have more people following us. That way we can do polls. We can share updates and behind the scenes stuff. We're looking forward to getting to that point in our podcasting career. Lane, thank you so much for the chat. It's been so fun as always.
Thank you, Jorge. And we should tell our listeners that we're going on a brief hiatus following this 10th episode. It's just a short little season break. We'll be back in about a month. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about some heavy hitters. So get prepared.
Do you want to tease it? Do you want to tease what our return episode is going to be about after our month break?
I wasn't going to say what it was about, but I mean, should we?
I think we should. You want to do it? You should do it.
So we think our first episode, when we come back, we thought we would talk about none other than Taylor Swift, who Jorge and I vehemently disagree on.
Yeah.
As an understatement.
It's going to be so fun. I am looking forward to everything related to that episode, including listening to Taylor Swift's music. And and it's going to be a fun conversation. Look. We're not the agreement podcast, right? We're not the 100% agreement podcast. We're here to talk, and we're here to analyze, and I'm looking forward to doing that. But yeah, it's going to be nice to get just a tiny little break, and we'll be back full force in a month.
See y'all then. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.